I am a very large advocate of positivity. Still, I was skeptical about this set. These are two massive worlds, Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, and these cards do not seem to fit the story. The mechanics of these cards are often the opposite of what they should do. They either do not fit Magic themes, or they do not fit the original Dungeons and Dragons mechanics, making us not learn any of them. This pack is actually perfect for this lesson, especially with the misprints presented by this pack. This swamp from Titus Lanter plays out in Baldurs Gate, where another future set will play out too. The flavor lets you trudge through the sewers of Baldurs Gate. Then you notice the absence of rats. This is strange for any city, but for a slightly dark fantasy setting, it is extra strange. Definitely when taking into account that the sewers of the city are as large as the city itself. There should be even more rats, as Baldur's Gate used to be a harbor city, as we can see in the art of this swamp as well, with the misty boats in the background. One thing does put me off. The flavor says we are trudging through the sewers and the art shows us we are on the docks. I am guessing this is to let us choose where we imagine to be, but it is not clear. I choose to look at the art more, and it features a rather shady environment. We should not be thinking about rats anyway, because it is what made them cower that should concern us. One inhabitant of the Underdark is someone who we have seen in the previous adventure as well, the Scion of Stygia. This frozen merchant layer of the Underdark, an eerie respite from the otherwise flaming Underhells. I want to focus on a rat extermination spell and on a classic Magic the Gathering spell. That is also a classic Dungeons and Dragons spell. This spell is Cone of Cold. More so, I want to focus on the disconnect between the two effects, because freezing a character in Dungeons and Dragons might not always be fun. It might feel a little unfair to not be able to play at all. It would be like letting someone skip 5 turns in Magic. Therefore, Cone of Cold is just a damage spell that only freezes when it kills. In Magic, freeze spells let you tap a creature. When you freeze it really well, it does not untap the next untap step. Now, this difference is a little weird, because it actually makes the spell less flavorful, so that fits the mechanic of Magic the Gathering. I personally think that this card should not have been here, or it should be this next card, which is also here, I suppose. Now this spell does hit the flavor, because Ray of Frost still damages but also slows the opponent down. Although it does not stop the opponent completely, like this spell does, it only lets them move less. But I guess this art from Kim Sokol shows us that this orc might still move. It might just hurt a little. Maybe the card should have tapped it and let it deal damage to itself, to untap it. It could even do more damage to red creatures, or something like that. This might have been more complicated, but I feel like it would have fit better. Now I do wonder whether the rats in Baldur's Gate were frozen, or if there is another reason for this freezing theme here. I have been assured that it is not weird for a card like this to be in Adventures of the Forgotten Realms set. Apparently printing mistakes like this cannot be prevented in any way, and I should not be angry because it was in the token slot. Well, for me it is a little bit weird to show you this elemental, but it does fit the theme. So I will just act like air elementals can be conjured by tieflings now. Flavor is out of the window anyways today. I do actually love this card, as it helped me introduce myself to the game when I started years ago. Air Elemental is just a flying creature, but when you just start out, this is more than complicated enough. Wait, you can block that creature? Wait, you can't block this creature? Man, those were the times. Just like that we are swept away by this being that is as insubstantial and as powerful as the wind that carries it. Lovely, invisible airplane birds from Dog Shafi. I am not even mad. How could I be? Now on the theme of rats, we have a Manticore. Why is this creature a rat? It is not. It just works really well with him. Because if a rat bites you, this Manticore could finish your character with its tail spikes. It is also a 4 mana flying 2/1, which seems to not be great, but you could sometimes play this as a 2-for-1 combat trick. In my mind this almost never happens and you might get yourself into a bad block, but it is flavorful. We have found the flavor well, because a Manticore is not necessarily the strongest being. It is way stronger than a 2-1 though, but Billy Christian made this one just the size of around 4 humans, meaning it would be a 4-4 or a 3-3, but still, the Manticore strength should lie in how it can use its claws and tail, making it great for fighting 2 enemies, which we do not see on the art. But we got there, we have flavor. Plus the Manticore's most unique skill is Tail Spike, which is just a ranged piercing attack, but still. It would have been better if it had Tail Spike Regrowth, letting it deal damage when it attacks for example, and letting it be a 3-3. Because the Manticore is mostly very strong, dexterous and has a great constitution. But it did have a little bit of flavor. This card pulled it off. Now we have Baldurs Torch. This should maybe let you find a way, but it lets you venture into a dungeon better. This is something fitting if we do not think about the Dungeons and Dragons flavor again. It does make a joke on dark vision. The torch also gives your creature +1/+1 because you could swing with this torch or defend with a stick while you burn your hand. Something like that. It is also hard to equip because you will have to find fire. I will let that one slide. No, this is not a legit card in flavor either. So let us imagine something. Like with the other cards. The venturing in the dungeon is illogical already, but let us look at this flavor because the dark vision creature was complaining, probably, so we know that this light is annoying to our dark vision friend, and our adventurers are squabbling about it. So maybe this torch is annoying other creatures in this dungeon too, and that is why our creature is stronger. Don't think about it too much though. Plate armor. It's a simple armor and that should be simple. It should be hard to equip though. 3 mana seems great and then it should only buff your defenses, right? Well, this one also gives you 3 power. Maybe because of the swords in the art of Martina Pilzurova. She saved this card because we forgot to call this card plate armor and swords. Sometimes artists have to fix a lot of mistakes. Still, this hard casting cost is reduced by how much other equipment you have. I don't know. Okay, maybe it is easier to equip because you have other equipment to equip this plate armor. I mean, you need chainmail to make this plate armor more efficient. You need straps to hold the armor together. And maybe a stool so that your scryer can reach your head. Well, the card is strong enough to play with in the equipment decks. Let's just keep it at that. I should never have started to look at the flavor of these cards. Zombie Ogre is a 5 mana 3/5. It has been fighting for the Xanathar guild. At first he thought he was clever and this was annoying. Now he is a stupid zombie without any thoughts, I assume. And as any thoughtless ogre does, he ventures into a dungeon whenever a creature dies. Okay, let's reverse. Maybe we should assume that we are with a very capable dungeoneering team. Maybe we are on the team of Xanathar here. We have to take our zombie friend Throg with us though, because he is perhaps the only way we have to smash through doors. So in order to continue, we need to feed Throg. So therefore we can only venture further into the dungeon when a creature died this turn. There, I did it. Sometimes it's better to hide than to fight. Darknar seems to think differently. This actually seems like a fun character to play with. Tyler Jacobson made this demon fang with skulls hanging from him and wispy shadows from his claws. His scars make me wonder what has happened to this gnoll. His abilities are great for a 2 mana bear, where he pumps the whole team if you have enough for a pack. I love the flavor of there being multiple creatures to fight, and I love that they are centralized in these two colors. Like red and green are going to be the colors for mobs to fight. Then the doubling of power of course seems fun, and for 8 mana you could have an attacking 12/8, which is a dream to have. Now, who is this aggressive beast? Well, he is a Fang of Yenogu, a demon that is worshipped by gnolls, also called the ruler of ruin, who is actually not powerful at all really. He even needs followers in order to exist at all. But this is easy as Yenogu grants his followers hunger first. Most of his followers are hyenas. His realm rules over death, and in death their followers will find strength. Then he lets his followers fear him. Only the most faithful followers were allowed to become one of his fangs. Yenogu has the power to let anyone he kills become tainted. A hyena who eats such a body will become a gnoll. Gnoll who are very faithful will then receive his ability too. These people are called fangs. Now back to Darknar, who received this ability. This is why he strengthens others' battle lust. His pack knows that there will be food and a chance for power this coming battle. One thing that will not help against a pack of hyenas is feigning death. In essence, it will only lure them to you. Still, this Drow tried to pull it off as his friends are fighting these hyenas. Drow are not supposed to be cowards. They should be massively powerful and should have the advantage in Maria's dark art. Still, our gold-plated elf tries to lie down and not get noticed. This resurrects your creature and makes it stronger, maybe because of their sudden resolve. I really cannot justify this +1 counter. Perhaps they just learned from this battle, even though they have their eyes closed. Yeah. Okay, Xorn. These are elementals. These beings dig through the earth, hide in rocky terrain, and can smell metals and minerals. The flavor projects this. Xorns are native to the elemental plane of earth, where gems and rare stones are plentiful. When summoned elsewhere, they can be quite destructive in search for food. Great! They have 3 claws, which is portrayed by their 3 legs by Jigit Koroglu as them having 3 legs, which is fine. This does look cool and the light from the back is amazing. Xorn, by the way, would rather eat treasure instead of making multiples of them. But let us just say that by following a Xorn, you might find more treasure. Then again, you would not be able to follow a Xorn because it can burrow in the earth so fast. So, do we really get a flavor of win here? No, none whatsoever, but it is cool to see these creatures anyways. Even if it's just for the cool art. But let's dive deeper, because Xorn are actually really interesting. They have their own language, they range from 1 to 2 meters tall, because metric is better, and weigh around 4,000 kilograms. Now how do they tunnel? First of all, they sense vibrations and smell minerals. Then they travel by eating the ground and crawling with their 6 limbs. Most interestingly, they can be friendly towards other beings as long as they feed them. Choose not to feed them though, and you might get hurt. You will be hurt. It feels weird to talk about her when we only found her land, but this is the temple to Tiamat, who is actually part of the classical pantheon here. She manifests as a human sometimes and has 5 heads as a dragon, 1 for each of the 5 colors that are also the colors of magic. Her being a part of a pantheon does mean that we will not get to see her herself on the material plane. Like with demons, we only get to see manifestations of her essence. These could resemble her or could be one of the 5 colored dragons. In fact, her temples are often built in one of the lairs of these colored dragons, where you can find heaps of treasure. One lair of a white dragon was even enough to restore the wealth of a whole barbarian tribe once. Colored dragons are rather evil, so they will not build such a shrine of influence in their own lairs, because that would mean they would be too close to their god. I think this is interesting because this might mean these dragons do respect Tiamat's power, but they do not love her as a deity. The land itself gives you the choice of any color that it will be, reflecting the fact that their temples are built in one dragon's lair and then will not move. So let's look at some dragons. Red dragon is what you expect from a dragon. Large, breathing fire, aggressive, greedy, cruel and cunning. Because of this simplicity, I have never encountered one in an adventure though, while other colors do seem more popular. In our game of Magic we even just got a 4/4 that blasts your opponent's face. Very simple. This makes for a very weak dragon in my opinion, that just comes out and does not give you a lot of swinging power, and just gives you a bit of unflexible reach for 6 mana. The art shows us one slowly incinerating a human. I think that again this is the most interesting part of this card, where Andrzej Kosinski gave us a realistic moment of what happens when you get burned. You do not disappear instantly, but you are very unlikely to survive, as you can imagine. Let's check up on this full alternate art white dragon from Simon Dominic. First of all, I love this snowy landscape. The snow particles look cool, but even the dragon's breath seems more deadly and cold because of its freezing the humidity in the air near it. This 4/4 now lets you freeze a creature and it does not untap. So the classic freezing spell again. I mean, Ray of Frost was 2 mana and add an elemental to that, and this white dragon and you win 1 mana just for having to spend it in one place. Now, is this a big upgrade over Air Elemental? Maybe in draft, but not in a focus deck. Okay, but let's look at white dragons, because these are interesting. As I said, these dragons can hoard massive amounts of treasure. So much even that hundreds of big men and women can feed themselves from these riches for multiple years. These are dumber and weaker than other dragons, but they say more safe anyways because they sleep in frozen caves. They do end up freezing all the other exits of their cave sometimes, making them sleep over the centuries, frozen in their own breath. They will also eat you when you are frozen, which seems a little extra, but they just like the cold. So for this one dragon, I will give it a pass on a mechanical flavor. So, not a good look on the mechanical flavor here, but that is no problem. Dungeons and Dragons has always been about making your own story. It is a problem though when they introduce this into a Magic set. I know it is meant to be a basic set, but it fails this too. The Air Elemental was way better suited for teaching new players the game in my opinion. So I do hope that they will change this basic format in the future, and for now we will start to treat packs from the set as D&D adventures again. Thanks for watching.